This tutorial starts with a song, but it's only a few seconds long. Let's get started with animation. Hello folks, this is the content browser in Maya. You find it under Windows. And in the content browser you find models which you can use for presentation, for, well, whatever you want to do in animation. And here you have a section called People. And in my case I have 4 characters here which come from the Render People. And I think they are all built into Maya. And the Render People is a company for motion capturing based in Cologne. That's the same city where I live in. And I don't know them personally, and I'm not affiliated with them in any way. And here is their website, World's Largest Library of Scanned 3D People. Well, you have popular ones like these post characters. Here you have bundles with lots of people sitting there, these 4 walking there, but most are stills, and you can use them for presentation. For example, if you want to make a presentation about working people, you can post them in different positions in your virtual scene and have a virtual house, build a house around them, or whatever you like. And here is the section of free models, and under the free models you find Alyiah or Alyiah, and she is new. And let us download her. She's about 1 gigabyte in size because of the really detailed texturing. She comes with texturing 4K, 2K with images and a cache folder, and you have her dancing as an ABC file. That's the Alembic file. That's really big, 0.5 gigabyte. And what I'll do is I choose the native one. Here are V-Ray versions, and this is a zip file which you download from the Render People. It's actually not 1 gigabyte, it's 3.5 gigabyte. That's quite an amazing size. But the scene which we're going to load is 66 kilobytes, and it takes quite a while to load actually. Now I'm fast forwarding this because it takes about a minute to load into my not very old computer. Errors have occurred while reading this scene that may result in data loss. I don't know what they mean, and when I check the script editor for details, I don't know what they mean either. So this is the grid, the actual grid in centimeters. So she's about 1.5 meters high, or 1.7 meters, and she's extremely detailed. And this is only the viewport. With rendering you get even more details, of course. And she dances, and I found it very odd to start the dance because this is what you get. Let me just run the scene. We're at frame 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and she turns into this kind of, well, monk. And that's very odd. It does not have to do with my personal viewport here, because the Render People folks, actually the Maya guy working there, could replicate this problem. Let me introduce a light, the sky dome light, and render it. Of course, Arnold needs to collect all the textures now, and this takes a while too. Now let us see if we see this monk or if we see the real Alyiah. Well, we do see the real Alyiah, so rendering is okay, but the viewport is not. Maybe it has to do with the Alembic. And talking about the Alembic, this is the character, this is our light. The character has no joints. It's just this object here, which is the only thing in the scene basically, with this odd structure here, which probably comes from, it's an Alembic, it comes from an Alembic version. It does not have a skeleton inside. So we cannot actually use it for character animation. We have to rely on the dance she performs. Now, since we can render her, I did render her, and let us have a look at the result. So she's dancing, and the question which I have for you, what kind of lights do I have in the scene here? Second question, what kind of camera do I have in the scene? It's a wonderful dance, and it lasts almost a minute. Well, here is my scene. I have a sky dome light with a very low intensity. The default is 1, and I reduced it to 0.1. And the only other light I have is a point light, which sits here, and it's not animated. It always stays in the same place, and you see in the final rendering that it does quite a good job, because it makes the scene very interesting in terms of what part of her body or her head is being illuminated. And the intensity is 1, but the interesting section here is the Arnold section, and here you see the exposure, and when I right mouse click I see that there's an expression working, and what I did, I set the exposure to 15 plus the sine of time. That means the 3 times sine of time. That means the point light is pulsating. It gets stronger and it gets weaker, but it's always between 12, that's because 3 times 1, and 18. So it's a very strong. 18 makes her very bright, and 12 makes her quite dark. So it's oscillating in time. That's basically all the lighting I have here. And now to the camera. This is the camera which I used for rendering. Let us hide her. And you see the camera follows the spiral, the helix. And it always looks to this point, which is sort of the head position in general. She moves her head obviously all the time, but the camera, well, it always looks at this point in space. And now it's finished. It's over 1,000 frames. How do I create such a spiral? Right mouse click, I create a helix, and I change the helix maybe a little bit here in the settings, the coils, number of coils, the height, etc. Then I right mouse click and select edges, and with a double click on one of these I select all the edges around here, and I convert them to curves. Duplicate surface curves. I have lots of curves here, and without further thinking about them, I just attach them to each other. So I have a new curve which is down here. Now I can delete all the other curves and the helix, and I have this helix curve in the scene. That's how I used it, and I attached the camera to it. When I see such an animation, I want to hear music, and obviously the render people don't provide the music. But they played back music when she was dancing in the studio. So what kind of music could we make? What kind of rhythm is it? Here you see my arrangement of the music in Cubase. The tricky thing here is to find the tempo, the beats per minute of the original song where she was dancing to, which we don't know. So when we compose a song to her dance, we need to know the exact timing. And what I found out by just clapping and tapping, etc., that the beats per minute is about 100. So I use these hip-hop drums, which you see and hear here. And when I added the claps, a clap audio to her hand clapping, and she claps her hands quite often in this minute of her dance. I found that 100 beats per minute is just perfect in this case, but in other cases it might be 95 or 95.7. So I was quite lucky with 100, but that's the tricky part. And I played this bass and this basic piano line, which just doesn't change. I just repeated it all the time. And when she raises her arms, I thought a little bit of extra melody would be good. And since I don't have a female voice and I don't know what she was singing, and we can see her sing something, I used a synthesizer to kind of fill in this half of a second or whatever that is. So this is the final song, and it's not a very sophisticated hip-hop groove, but it fits to the animation. And with this, I wish you a very good day and happy animating.